friends, and welcome to another episode of the Conspiracy Broadcast Channel. I'm your host, the voice of reason, broadcasting from deep within the heart of Indiana. And with this episode here, I just wanted to discuss a broad topic, but something which I believe a lot of things are connected and responsible for. And really, the notion here is, I mean, we're in trouble here. Society is on the decline. We can all see that. It's degenerate. I mean, I'm not just talking about the TikTok culture, shameless dancing, and stupid behavior for likes, and adoration, and popularity, and potentially money with the ad revenue that's rewarding these types of people for doing insane things that keep us all glued to our phones. But yeah, it's not just TikTok or the perpetual war and current, corrupt politicians, economics, and corporations. It's society is facing a deeper problem, and when things are going wrong, it's obviously because something is deeply and fundamentally flawed, and there's an issue. It's not working for a reason, and I feel like in general we seem to lack honor and decency these days, as we did, in previous eras. Hearing stories from my grandfather when he was alive, and just the way he interacted with people. He would always, even in the store, the shop, he'd, buy something, and then he'd thank the person. If it was a man, he'd say, "Thank you, kind sir," and he just had a bit of respect and common courtesy and decency towards other people, and we've just sort of, it seems to be on the decline. If we have evolved from, primates and apes, and obviously, the cavemen, and as some people like to romanticize about the hunter-gatherer type human that they once were. If it's obvious, in some form or another, we evolved from a lesser species, and then we developed culture and civilization and a set of values and beliefs that that allowed us to develop things like language, written language, art, science, mathematics, and all these things that really help society along in its current industrial state. We wouldn't be able to thrive if we didn't have the base foundation of these such elements, the fundamentals. But of course, we had religion and other old traditions that kept us fairly respectable. But it's also possible that these may have been the cause of this backlash due to the oppression that went along with such things like religion and other types of tradition. Excuse me, and sorry, they probably didn't make too much sense to a lot of people, because most of the time they don't really make too much sense. No one, any critical thinker will obviously question whether or not there is some sort of higher power and magical ultimate creator in the clouds who is waiting to judge them or give them a better life of eternal bliss as such. But that's going to be another discussion for for another topic. So yeah, I think we're I still think we're, society has yearned for values and purpose, but I think that we've given ourselves the wrong ones, if I'm going to be as polite as possible, and because they didn't really ring true to us and in our sort of deep core system of beliefs. Sorry, might need another coffee. Um, I feel like that's the cause for people just completely giving up and not believing in anything anymore. I mean, it's a failed system, um, because it's evolved into a state of competition and greed. And I want to talk about economics in another episode as well, but this is just a broad sort of uh, idea and summary of what's sort of going on in society and why we're declining as such, and why we have such a degenerate culture of beliefs. And I'm not like a stickler or a prude or anything like that, but I feel like there's a point where we have to maintain a little bit of dignity, or otherwise it just gets a little perverted and disgusting and degenerate, and we lose sight of our true purpose and inner selves and stuff. I feel like we are divine creatures at the end of the day. We're and we need to behave accordingly sometimes without, and that doesn't mean we can't have fun or anything, but, there's a point where I think you really do run the risk of losing your soul and your being, and of course there's other things I could talk about in more detail which kind of relate to that and really back it up, but certain types of people in certain types of industries don't tend to have too long a lifespan because of, I guess, from the mental state and spiritual state it probably puts you in after you've indulged in that sort of activity for too long. And I sort of, I feel like I've done fairly well because I'm lucky enough that I never really find myself being addicted to anything other than video games, or other activities I like, skateboarding, snowboarding, and riding a push bike, and even a motorcycle. But I have my own set of values, and I believe that the core principle for that is compassion. Compassion, empathy, and if you can always be aware of that and consider everyone else and everything else, as a possible result of your actions, then I feel like you're going to do all right. So yeah, we live in this bizarre, awkward sort of stage where things like YouTube have taken off, of course, and it's gotten to the point where it's like idiocracy now. I mean, you have these YouTube people, and some videos I've watched, people and who have every right to say the words that they're saying. They've been trafficked before, and they're telling their story, yet they're too afraid to say the word pornography or porn. They replace it with corn, which is utterly and completely insane to me. I mean, we are becoming idiocracy, especially if we allow, a platform like YouTube to censor us and make us afraid to use certain words when discussing serious topics. That's a problem. I mean, right now, I just want to say, everyone join me and say it along with me. Fuck the algorithm, all right? I'm not going to be afraid of that. I'd rather work an honest job. I mean, I'm a driver at the moment. I want to get back into construction, of course, because that's what I enjoy doing. And now I like doing hard work. I'm probably getting too old, but I prefer to do hard, honest work that's actually doing something for people. I'm repairing, a floor or a wall, some insulation, a roof, putting a roof on. So, I prefer construction work and doing something that's actually benefiting somebody and improving their life, and not just trying to suck off a system just to make my own life better and, be, take the easy road, and sit in front of a computer, which I'd been doing for far too long when I was working in the printing industry. I was sitting in front of a computer repairing files and color correcting and all sorts of things, and that was just helping nobody, really. The world is, well, I mean, maybe to an extent. I don't want to rip on any industry and offend anyone, but I felt like I had more to offer to the world than that. So yeah, we're gotten to a point where people, and it's a result of this censorship. Like they won't be able to, they won't say porn, they'll say corn. It's insane. You can say blue movies or adult movies. They used to be called blue movies if you didn't want to say pornography. You don't have to pick a word that rhymes with a shortened abbreviation of the word that you're actually describing. That is completely and utterly insane and retarded, if I'm being perfectly honest. And you got these other idiots, as well as I've heard, when describing someone who may have ended their own lives, suicide, they won't say that. Idiocracy kicks in, and they'll say what they've come up with is the word unalived. They unalived themselves. My God, how completely retarded. I can't believe we live in this world. People are so afraid of an algorithm and not getting enough likes and subscriptions and, being able to monetize their stupid video. Who gives a shit? Just say the damn word and have some guts, So, unalived. That is true idiocracy right there. Corn instead of porn. They're too afraid to say the word racist because the algorithm will get them on that. So they say racist. Unbelievable. And I don't think you're allowed to say woman too many times. You have to be an idiot and demean yourself and sound like a complete and utter tool and say women. So this is where we are in the world today, people. A completely insane, bizarre society of degeneracy and fear. And, you've also, I watch a lot of other videos, and, we can all see it in what's going on with Hollywood and in the, cinema and stuff. And there seems to be, some sort of woke takeover, and they believe it's some cultural thing, and or it's some sort of just profit destroying silliness which the executives have yet to figure out, and they're too stupid to figure out their DEI hiring is just causing their stocks to fail. And I think that's a little naive. I think it's all planned. It's coming from a much higher place. It's the directives are coming from a much higher order. It's not these. It's not a culture. It's not these incredibly wealthy, incredibly wealthy corporate executives just deciding, oh, DEI is the thing. We need to hire more people based on their sexual preferences and color rather than their skills and abilities. How completely and utterly insane. No one in their right mind on this planet would think that is a thing that a profit-generating corporation needs, is diversity for the sake of diversity. That in itself is completely discriminatory, in my opinion, on its own. I mean, if you're hiring based on appearance and sexual preference, then you're discriminating yourself. You are the problem right there. You're not, a job and an industry who is tasked, and his main purpose is to produce a product which sells and that appeals to people. You don't hire people based on their appearance. You hire the ones with the skill. It's never been like that. and in no reality ever will it work by hiring somebody for that specific reason rather than the person who can do the job properly. So, I mean, really, you know, at the end of the day, it's still old white men, white people that control the world. They're making all the decisions about this woke DEI horseshit, and you know, whatever strange and degenerate things that are occurring right now, it's most likely part of a bigger plan. And you know, the all these investment firms, you know, a rock of dark shade. I won't mention the name of it, so you know, I'm sure they'll go after me if if anyone ever did listen to my videos. But you know, they're creating a, you know, a very dangerous and unstable, toxic environment. You know, they're only using this DEI thing to further their own agenda. At the end of the day, it's going to be something to basically shift maybe the moral compass of society and confuse everyone with all this stuff for another purpose. I mean, they probably have enough money, and you know, they're just bending over for you know, for a higher power. You know, we believe we live in a state of democracy and freedom, but really we don't. It's just a perceived sort of version of that. We live in a state of control. We're just given the illusion of choice by all these wonderful things. I mean, it's whatever choice you have, it's the same, you know, Coke or Pepsi. It's the same sugary garbage that's ultimately bad for you. You know, you're not given, one is not better than the other. They're all part of the same system. It'd be silly to think that a corporation or a country could even operate like that. Swap out a you know, the higher management every 4 years and expect things to run smoothly, but just differently and better. I think there's ultimately you know, there's a base system in place there, and they just swap out, you know, the faces every now and then just to keep it seeming fresh, and like we have a choice. So that's what I think about this this woke thing. You know, it's the people who are deciding on this and letting all this happen are still the same, you know, cronies of rich, evil-looking white people, and they're only using this as a means to further an agenda. Once it's all done and complete, you'll find that they'll have no use for this DEI stuff anymore. In fact, it'll backfire. The ones who are being used and the ones who are being promoted and are kind of parading around and and really sort of rubbing it in everyone's faces, it's going to backfire on them, and it may end up like something that happened in Nazi Germany. They'll have, you know, all those types of people will be branded, and they'll have a pink triangle, you know, painted on the back of their uniform and rounded up and put in camps, and you know, they will have just been pawns for a bigger game. So it's not a cultural thing. These people aren't the ones making the decisions. It's coming from a higher power, and it would be silly to think that, you know, think anything different, because it's so insane and silly. It's just not the way a corporation would run itself, you know, unless they were being backed by something much larger, and you know, they were being subsidized with some other incentive rather than the general profits that they generate themselves. So, you know, I can see something happening where, you know, those types of people that are being promoted and paraded are gonna they're going to suffer, and they're just being used as pawns anyway. And I'd be very afraid if I was being boosted up like that for, for bizarre sort of reasons that just don't really make sense. And it all boils down to, you know, um, there was a Russian defector, Yuri Bezmenov, and he he basically stated what's going on now, and what's happening in society is it's a you know it's a form and a method and a process to demoralize a society. And I feel like that's what's happening now. We're being demoralized with all this stuff. It seems obvious. I mean, there would be no other real practical reason for it. And at the end of the day, there's nothing. It's not like these people are being oppressed or anything. We celebrated, gay people and people of, other types of interests back in the 80s. Our greatest musicians and artists were gay and that. And the cool thing was about it, they weren't so self-centered either. We had things like Live Aid and Band Aid where they were trying to raise money to help starving people in Africa, whereas now people are just these self-entitled, self-obsessed narcissists. So we've already had that. There's been no oppression of gay people or bi people or LGBTQ plus whatever the hell it is becoming now. They've always been accepted. They've always been celebrated in the music industry and Hollywood. And this isn't an uprising. I believe this is just a power play for a much bigger agenda, which is demoralization at the end of the day. So that would be, to me, the only logical explanation anyway. I mean, companies and corporations wouldn't devalue and demean themselves with, some bizarre branding methods and, fire departments, as we've seen in Los Angeles, who seem to, really resent the public rather than want to help them. So, I would look into, if you haven't seen the interview with him, it's like in the 70s or 80s, and he saw it back then, and, he's saying it only takes a generation to demoralize a population, and most of us would probably realize it's due to a implementation of a new economic system. We're seeing a decline in our current economic system. I think it doesn't work. It's based, without any concept of cause and effect, so it's going to crash. It's just a bubble, a lending bubble based on debt. And so we're going to explode. They're going to have to implement something else and new. And all this is just, part of the process of getting us ready for it, and not sort of devolving into a state of, civil unrest and possible civil war because of it. It's just another method of control. Obviously, I mean, if you were at the top and you were in control and you were one of the financial elites of the world, you would be concerned with controlling the population, managing the population, and making sure it doesn't explode into something which could be, uncontrollable and chaotic and threaten your way of life and comfort and luxury. So whether it be of evil intentions or just to maintain, they do have a dual role to maintain their own level of comfort and to, and to manage the world. And, they do have the power to wipe us all out with, nuclear weapons or viruses as such, or anything else. I think it's generally just kept the way it is in secret to to keep us all from not panicking so much. And I'm not saying they're good or bad or anything. I'm not judging it, but I mean, put in that position, it would be a hard thing to deal with, without completely destroying society. I guess that's why we've all been led into war as a method of control and population control. So yeah, that's what I think is going on right now with this, society. It's a combination of many things. I mean, society is degenerating, but it's being pushed along the way because there's certain other things at play, and it's not going to work out too well for anyone else. And the ones that are in the spotlight and are being used, it's just a stage of a new era I think we're moving into, and we probably need to be a little bit cautious of what's going on and not take it as at face value, of course, because that seems to me a little naive anyhow. So with that said, I mean, I might have to just wrap this episode up. I think we've covered much of it. Don't know what's going on with my voice, but I've just done my morning exercises and drunk a coffee, so I've dehydrated myself, I would say. Anyhow, it was an absolute pleasure having you as an audience, and I hope to see you in the next one. So stay safe out there, people.